Hey Cap. Before we take it there, let me rewind a little and tell you the whole story. Why Peter Parker is the way he is, and how Captain America, a symbol of hope, became a forgotten footnote in the dusty book of superhero history. Avengers Twilight. An old and dishevelled Steve Rogers awakes to a new day. A day of the future. It's not the first time he's opened his eyes to a world that has, quite frankly, forgotten him. Except this time, he witnessed the downfall live and in person. Last time, he didn't really get a choice. His partner is the only thing keeping him going these days. But it's August 13th. A day he would love to have forgotten long ago. But he doesn't get to forget. The outside world makes him feel like he doesn't belong there. He was a man out of time in our generation. This one, well, he's just a ghost of the past struggling to walk into the future. But the world won't let him forget who he is. Are you Captain America? You want a selfie? Oh, of course not. I would never. His mind isn't what it used to be. Is that why you're meeting me late? A voice shouts at him from behind. An old man wearing what seems to be an exoskeleton of some sort to keep him upright. Come on, Matt's waiting in the park. Sorry, Luke. Slow start to the day. Luke asks if he's kicking coffee, but he explains Rosa made him one in bed. Luke remembers what day it is. It's H Day. They meet up with Matt and he's overrun at work as usual. Even for a blind man, he still sees a bright future for the world. Steve, on the other hand, the man that used to be the pillar of hope, has had that pillar chipped away at for decades now. He doesn't even have the super soldier serum anymore inside of him. He asks Luke what he's been up to and gets a vague ex-mayor type answer. He just reassures him that he's still fighting for something. Later, Steve's at home with Rosa getting ready to eat dinner, while Rosa jokes about how ridiculous his skin tight blue pants and that big letter A on his head were. But they're interrupted by a news broadcast about the Red Skull. They're trying to say he was a good man for trying to bring down the Third Reich. But Cap knows the only reason he did that was that so he could take over the world himself and not the other guy. He's furious. He storms off into the next room to reminisce on the good old days of what used to be. The next day he goes on a talk show to debate Tony Stark's and the Wasp's son, James Stark. He's trying to get people to understand who the Red Skull actually was. But James goes on a rampage saying he's trying to shut down free speech. It's a slap in the face to heroes, he shouts. Ah, heroes. You and others like my father painted the world as black and white. Heroes and villains. But then you brought us H-Day. Hero Day. A national tragedy. He's startled and suddenly hurled back in time to one of his darkest moments. A day of reckoning for the superhero community. Hundreds dead. Boston leveled. The day the world woke up. The death count fell mostly to one of the founding members of the Avengers, Dr. Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk. Steve goes on to say how Ultron was controlling him, but James is ready for that one. Ah yes, the evil AI created by, would you look at that, yet another Avenger, Hank Pym. So how can we believe you about the Red Skull? How is everyone supposed to know what a hero looks like now? They look like your mom and dad, he says, sadly through his gritted teeth. Then storms out of the station, out into the rain, and that's when it hits him. The memories start to flood in, along with a sharp pain in his chest. The Avengers. It's H-Day. All the identities of superheroes has been leaked. Everyone is being lured to their loved ones' homes and ambushed by enhanced supervillains. They land in the rubble of a once grey city. Did a bomb go off? Natasha asks. Keep your eyes peeled, Cap barks back. Hey, Cap. You should see the other guys. 'Cause I sure don't. Save your breath. Help us on the way. Cap, I saved my aunt. Her name is May Parker. Promise me. You'll keep her and my identity safe, even after I... You'll be fine, son. You'll be... My name is... You're Spider-Man, son. And you're the best of us. Pulled back to reality by some noise nearby. Some kids on skateboards are being harassed by Stark's soldier bots. So he intervenes. He dispatched one of them, then another. Before his old age catches up to him and he gets caught from behind the head with a baton. The kids get away, but he's not so lucky. Until someone from the shadows start attacking the police. More and more of them start to appear. They put a bag over his head and whisk him away. Later, when the bag is taken off, Luke is sitting in front of him. He's confused. What is this, Luke? We're at war, Cap. And you were made for war. He begins to get mad, but is quickly cut off. Matt's dead, Steve. The government and the news is controlled by Tony's son. The new Avengers are laying waste to other countries. He tells them that he can't help anymore, he's just too old. But he's wrong. With this you can, they tell him. My name's Kerry, and I've been doing my best to replicate the super soldier serum. But it doesn't work on everyone. Only specific people. Ever since Luke's bulletproof skin became immovable, he's a knowledge man now, walking in the shadows, no more fighting. But Steve... Well, Steve is Captain America. He's also a fucking Avenger. He calls Rosa and lets her know he's okay. But he won't be home for a while. There's something he needs to do. He's opening his eyes again, and hopefully others too. But he can't do it alone. He's going to assemble the fucking Avengers. In a future where the Avengers are government-funded clowns in suits who do anything for James Stark, aka Iron Man's son, who has inherited the wealth of Iron Man, and also, unfortunately, every other personality trait Iron Man has, other than his heroism, obviously. So that means the world is basically run by a tatted up trust fund kid with a hatred for heroes of old. He is currently still making Iron Man armour, but not for himself, but for the President's private army. But he goes on to say that he already did make it, but he has no more ideas. But Jarvis, his mentor, not Butler, that was his brother, he says that he should go visit the raft for more ideas. But what would be the reason he'd go visit a high security prison built for superheroes? James Stark eventually arrives at his destination, but the overseer of the facility warns James that he respects that he's the only one that can make contact, but too much usage could cause irreparable damage. But he doesn't care. He enters and prepares to take care of family business. Iron Man is now just a floating head in a tank, and James is using his mind to create new inventions to profit from. Hey Dad. Now, on to book 2. I did a deep dive into book 1 in this video here if you want to check that out. But without further ado, let's begin. New York will always be, well, New York. But that doesn't give anyone the excuse to beat up old homeless men. Especially not on his watch. An old Captain America has been given a new lease on life for the second time now. He just recently got injected with the super serum for the second time, and he's back in action. The Avengers of this age are powerful, but what's power if you don't have any heart? The people aren't impressed. That ain't Cap, an old woman mutters to herself. She's apparently been hearing rumours that he's back, but the news will never report on it. Meanwhile, an old Luke Cage held up by an exoskeleton as his bones have become too hard to move. He's heard all he needs to. Back at their secret base, Cap and the others are going over the next play. They want to make a public play to announce to the world that someone is looking out for everyone, still. But the government control all live events. It's impossible. But there's one opening, the New Year's Eve event in Times Square. It will be broadcast all over the world. Wars are not fought on the battlefield anymore, but in the minds of the people. Public perception is the ultimate swing vote. Luke arrives back and they have a little talk. He explains that he understands that he wants to help everyone, but their underground facility is getting full. But Steve can't leave anyone behind, because that's who he is. But he has probably forgotten the most important person to him of all, Rosa, his partner. He took on this mission without even consulting her first. She thought he was beyond the superhero life. But sorry is not enough. It won't cut it this time. Since she can't go home, she will help patch him up if need be. But him and her are over. Go fight your war, Steve, she says, in both anger and sadness. At the White House, James and Jarvis are visiting the president as he is worried about the rumours that Cap's back. But they're not worried. They'll just send in the Thunderbolts. But the president is shocked. He won't let a war happen on American soil. Who do you think you are, he says. But Jarvis responds with, I'm the CEO. While the president screams for help. I'm the CEO of America. And you're just a mascot. He explains the secret to the Secret Service is that they work for James. And he reminds the president that so does he. Meanwhile, a woman is seeing her kids off to school, then sitting down to watch TV as it plays footage of the new Avengers talking about the American way. He gives a good speech. Hi Kamala, I need your help. Miss Marvel is in shock. She can't believe who's in front of her right now. He shouldn't be here. But he goes on to say it's important. The Avengers need to... Those are the Avengers, Steve. We lost everything on H-Day. She doesn't understand why he would even come here. She has a family. But he tries to guilt trip her into fighting by mentioning it's for her children. But she tells him to get out. And he reminds her of what he's heard. He's heard of people being saved by a giant hand, like the hand of God. Before he leaves, he mentions that the Dark Avengers protocol is in effect. Goodbye, Kamala. She stares off into the distance until finally heading down to the basement and listening to her old police radio. It's time. It's New Year's Eve. They're staking out Times Square. The ground team take out 2 soldiers standing guard. They're hacking into the system, but they're seen by more guards. It's not just normal guards anymore. It's the Thunderbolt guards. Steve kicks into action, taking out one, then another. But even with his super soldier serum, his knees still aren't the same. They throw the broadcast set up to Cap as the Thunderbolts fire on civilians. Cap is shocked. He smashed one of their heads in, reminding them that there are hundreds of innocent people here. That's when the guard shouts, Bullseye, you on him or what? And if we know anything about someone called Bullseye, it's that they don't miss. But they shoot the broadcast system instead, strangely. They have to do it manually now. They throw Cap the microphone and it begins. My name is Steve Rogers. You know who I am. And you know what I stand for. Your government has stolen away your freedom. The Watcher Act isn't there to protect you. It isn't there to protect your privacy. It's there to protect them. To make it so you never see what they're doing. To the world. To the disenfranchised. It's so light never shines on their crimes. So you never see the people who suffer in order for you to thrive. That's not who we are. We're Americans. We look out for people. We don't turn our backs. And now that you know, you can begin to be free again. Together we can fight back. We can help people. His speech is cut short as they have arrived to take him away. They must go. They're given orders to take them down, but they run into an abandoned building and emerge on motorbikes ready for the chase. They start to shoot and one of them goes down, but Cap never leaves a soldier behind and grabs him to safety. Back at Stark's, he's putting together that new armour for the soldiers. He got the last piece he needed from his dad's head. But Jarvis doesn't want the suit for the army. He wants James to use them. But James doesn't want to. It's the only way to stop Steve Rogers. He won't attack knowing his friend's son is inside that machine. Iron Man is your destiny, James. Tony Stark and Janet Van Dyne didn't sire a fool, and I didn't raise a coward. Jarvis is contemplating something when a voice says, "You're losing control," as he gets flashbacks to H-Day. Hardly. There are bumps along the way. But if there's one thing I've learned from you, it's patience. You didn't have enough of it on H-Day. And so you lost. I watched you lose and thought to myself, how does a robot not have patience? Ultron and Jarvis, aka the Red Skull, made a deal. Once he sets the world into shape and eventually departs, the robots can have their way with it for millennia. Let Ultron bring Earth into its next era of greatness. Meanwhile, back at base, Cap is feeling like he lost because people aren't reacting the way he wanted to his speech. It's a different world, and he has to come to terms with that. But Luke slaps him out of it. Enough of your American dreams, sad speeches. Bad people are doing bad things, so we need to stop them and that's it. But they actually might have a breakthrough. They have an inside scoop on their secret weapon. But they'll need help. From the world's smartest man. Tony Stark. Captain America is back, and though he's definitely not better than ever, he's all that's left to stop the supervillains controlling the world. In his safe house, he can't sleep, reminiscing over old times once again. All he can think about is his old friend Tony, whose floating head has been locked up in a prison for supervillains, and he won't stand for it. He goes to the communications room and discovers that someone has been sending a distress signal. A very old one at that. He thanks Tyler and begins to set off on his one-man suicide mission to the Raft, a high-tech supervillain prison. But Tyler, his communication expert, says he shouldn't go alone. But he has no choice. Luke Cage can't move anymore, and all the rest of his people aren't ready for this type of mission. It's in the middle of a river. There's no escape plan. Only succeed or die. He understands, but he's gonna need a guy who can override all of the security. And Tyler's that guy. Meanwhile, at the Raft, James Stark, Iron Man's evil son, is gloating to his father about how he finally did it. He made an armour, not as a drone, but for himself. He thinks himself even better than Tony. Even smarter, he says. He says he's actually going to save the world, and keep it safe. Unlike Tony. Over the choppy seas on the way to the Raft, Cap and Tyler are flying the original Avengers Quinjet as the government confiscated everything from the Avengers mansion on H-Day, the day the superhero community fell. Tony has a few locked away for safekeeping. The technology is amazing for modern day standards. He was always ahead of his time. "Let's go save an Avenger," Cap says. They slow up close to the entrance. The rain will help with the stealth. He sets off, spotting a guard and dispatching him easily. Tyler hacks his way in, and Cap tells him to wait in the jet, and if he's not back in 20, leave. The defenders need him alive. He's not a soldier, and the raft is no place for civilians. It used to be a high security prison for the ones who let power corrupt them, for villains who we'd put away time and time again. But now in a world without heroes, where the government execute villains, it's a monstrous research facility. Every part of him wants to burst in and shut down everything. But war brings tough decisions, and freeing Tony is top of that list. He grabs a professor nearby and takes his keycard. Some cameras will have picked him up by now, so he has to be quick. He sees his friend for the first time in ages. It's Steve, he says. He's gonna get him out of there. But he doesn't know how. It's a little too complicated, a voice says from behind. It's the sniper, Bullseye, who spared his life at the Times Square speech, last issue. He's been told to kill Captain America and that he is a terrorist. But James walks in and interrupts the party. He came for his old man. Found a different one waiting. Cap says he's taken Tony. But James is furious. He begins to threaten to call the new Avengers, but is suddenly hit with an arrow from above, screaming for help. Bullseye drops down and Steve informs them that you just hit the richest man in the world with an arrow. They suggest that they gotta go, but Steve asks why first. Why help him? Let's just go, they say. Steve retrieves Tony, puts him in a tube, and gets ready to leave to his aircraft without being, well, caught. James has put on the Iron Man mask, informing the guards of what's happening, until he receives another arrow to his shoulder. Bullseye knows the layout, but all they have is a bow. You call yourself Bullseye? But I know a Hawkeye when I see one. If you're with me, one rule. No killing, Steve says. Whatever, old man, they reply. The door opens and they're immediately fired upon, but Bullseye is ready for them. Before they leave, Steve starts to feel like he's missing something. He thought it was just his old age that made him feel incomplete. With the serum I can lead armies, but with you, I can do anything. More shots rain down on them. His shield takes care of the stragglers. They make it outside. But someone is waiting for them. He blasts Cap, but with his shield in hand, he can deflect anything. Bullseye empties a clip into the Iron Man, but it does nothing. He prepares to annihilate him, but is blasted from behind. It's Tyler in the Quinjet, but he's not too happy about that. He blasts the ship, making it come crashing down. Shoot the windshield, Cap screams. Bullseye hesitates. Do it, he shouts. The ship is on a one-way collision course with the prison. But nobody's dying today, Cap says. Nobody. As he jumps and crashes his way through the jet's window, glass everywhere. Cap pulls Tyler from the wreckage, just before it explodes. Not bad, James says as he jets off. And Bullseye thinks he's hightailing it. But he couldn't be more wrong. Run, Steve screams. But it's too late. James comes crashing down, destroying everything around him. Cap and Tyler try to recover before he realises where they are. But they're taking on water. The guards are drowning. Bullseye tries to rescue them while Steve is on his way for backup, but gets blasted from behind. This is ridiculous, James says in anger. You're the past, fighting the future. No, I fight for the future. They begin to fight as James' fists collide with his shield. He's finally realising the power of the armour. Being Iron Man is... God, I feel high, he gloats. Cap begs James to save the drowning men, but he doesn't care. He has his dad back. Bullseye is failing. The men are drowning. Cap can't take any more hits. His body is not what it used to be. What gives you the right to make decisions? Your money? Your father's brilliant mind? Your lost son? Your... No! James tosses his dad's head into the water, saying he doesn't need him anymore. He doesn't need anyone. Cap continues to attack, but the ground below them starts to shake. What is that? The men are rising from the water. It's Miss Marvel! She came! She goes to put the guards on the boat, but James points his blaster directly at them. But Cap hits him last minute, knocking his aim off, and then smashing his face in with his shield, saying no one dies today. But James is too strong and retaliates with a flurry of blows. I'm not your child. I'm James Stark, and I run the world. I've met men like you, Cap says. You won't run it for long. The power resides in the people. Goodbye, Uncle Steve. Your dreams are a little too dangerous. What did you do? James screams in a ball of fire on the ground. What I always do in hard times. I prayed. The mighty god of thunder stands over the fallen man made of iron, triumphant, asking, "It's been a wolf's age, Captain. Shall we assemble?" They mistook the firefighters for the fire. I remember I had a plan. I don't know how they saw me coming, but they did. And then I just had pain. They came. His Avengers have assembled. The mighty Thor and Miss Marvel. James is down, but definitely not out. Cap smacks his shield across the iron face of this man-child, telling him to stand down. Cap tells Thor to clear the raft, but there's a problem. Missiles are coming in hot. Jets above prepare for another strike. One goes down. They're panicking now. The weather report was clear, they say. From one warrior to another, a request. Please exit thy vehicle. On the ground it's chaos. Miss Marvel is cleaning up after Thor's sky battle, and the Navy will be there in minutes. The fight is done. James blasts off in retreat, Thor willing to follow as always, but Cap tells him he's needed on the ground. Let him go. Let him think about what he's done. Back at base, they're overrun with injured men and women, friend and foe alike. Rosa is there, his partner. She's a nurse, so she's helping the best she can, but she still wants nothing to do with Steve, after he started up this hero thing again, without telling her. Thor apologises for not being around. He explains he's seen so many loved ones die. As he is immortal, time catches up with his human friends, and he doesn't like to be around to see the outcome. Luke slags him off a bit about it. He explains that after H-Day, he couldn't do it anymore, but he came when he was needed, and that's what matters, Steve says. They're trying to wake Tony up, but the generator is out. Not to worry. The living embodiment of power is standing right next to them. "James!" Tony screams. He's awake and all he can think about is his son. He's seen it all, the whole time. He's been conscious, witnessing everything, just unable to do anything about it. Steve tried to shake off the guilt, but Tony butts in, saying it's worse than you think. The Red Skull is pretending to be Jarvis, the CEO of his company, and he's got his boy too. He's going to take over everything and reveal himself to be the Red Skull. All around the world, dictators have all the same thing in common. They want the world to know their name. Thor interrupts her saying, "Ha! Is this the new Hawkeye?" I sense great warrior spirit in her. Luke explains the situation as clear as day for everyone, saying the Red Skull has taken over, and the public doesn't care, but they will attack us for it. Well damn. Avengers, assemble. Back in James's place, he's repairing his armour after the failure in battle. and Jarvis comes to him, finally revealing who he truly is. "My name is Johann Smith. I was known as the Red Skull. Tony Stark isn't your father. I am. And we're in this together, son." Meanwhile, Steve is training non-stop until he sees Tony, able to move about again in his armour. Tony says he doesn't remember much from H-Day and asks if Janet is alive, aka the Wasp. But Steve says he assumes she died with you, Tony. "I remember we stopped Hulk, stopped Ultron, but lost so much. There were still Ultron-enhanced villains on a rampage, heroes falling. I knew what was coming next. Only a fool couldn't have. Read the build-up over the years. America had had enough. I watched as they sent everything at what remained of Boston. Not just at the villains, but at us. The people were taking back their lives, their security, and mistook the firefighters for the fire. Jan and I managed to escape Boston, but we couldn't leave without James. I remember I had a plan. And then I just had pain. I don't know how they saw me coming, but they did." He doesn't remember what happened to Jan. "If she's alive, we'll find her," Cap says. "But if she's dead, we're going to avenge her. We need to stop the Skull and get to James. But the biggest obstacle is them." They call themselves the Avengers. Later, Luke, Hawkeye, Cap, Miss Marvel, Tony and Thor have hatched a plan to get into the old Avengers mansion while the new Avengers are away. Tony moves in while invisible. Hawkeye takes out the security. They're in. They have finally come home. But nothing has changed. Except for the portraits of the new guys, that is. They're going to set a trap for them when they return. Tyler tells them that the new Avengers are on their way back. There's not much time. Tony hacks in to try and spot their weaknesses. Sorry, is this their weakness? They're hollow like Easter eggs? These are graphic programs. None of it's real. The Avengers don't exist. Oh, they exist. To the world they keep in line. Skull, you maniac. You should have prayed for them to be real. That was the last thing stopping us from getting to you. He says he controls the narrative now. They believe what I tell them, because their cups are full. It will be resplendent to be able to finally tell them a singular truth. The Avengers of yesteryear are dead. "Run!" Cap screams as the doors lock behind them. But you cannot trap a god of thunder, as he smashes the doors with ease. "Go, go, go, go! Get out of here!" Cap screams. But Tony stays behind to try and get into Skull's files. "I just need..." The mansion has fallen. Rubble is everywhere. But where's Tony? I got his plans. He's already done it. He has the US military. And he's going to burn down Washington. The Red Skull watches on as his iron grip on the world tightens. He controls the government. He controls the news. He controls the news each individual sees, keeping everyone happy. Him and James have basically been running the country for the past decade in the shadows anyways. Let's make it official. Let us take America. The Red Skull and James are back at their base, checking the Skull's new armour for any malware, Trojan horses, or anything like that Ultron might have planted in it. But James notices blood coming from the new armour. He's suspicious. Ultron and the Red Skull bicker over the Skull's betrayal. He says machines must serve man, and he never intended to let him reign when the Skull dies. Ultron goes on a rampage of insults, but it's put to rest with one swift blast of the Red Skull's new weapon. Machines serve man, Ultron. And men serve the Red Skull. Back with our heroes, they're on the way to try and stop them from overthrowing the government, when the new reality of the situation dawns on them, when the new Hawkeye reveals that she spent time with all these soldiers. They fully believe in what the Red Skull is saying, and once someone believes something, it's like trying to erode a mountain and the truth is rain. They're soldiers who believe they're doing what's right, and that makes them the most dangerous people in the country. The forces have taken over the capital. Red Skull storms in and dispatches some of the men, leaving him and the president alone, telling him the Avengers he's calling out for aren't real. He reveals his true self to the president, and it's absolutely disgusting. He's just a rotten corpse in a metal body. The Avengers are updated on the situation down below and send Tony to save the president. But as he barges into the Oval Office through the window, Red Skull eviscerates the president right in front of him. Tony is taken over by anger. He and Skull do battle, flying out of the White House, across the city, through city blocks and buildings. That's when Skull gives the call to Tony's son for backup. It's time. We're on our way. Tell my father he was better off in the tank. Back at the White House, Thor takes out more soldiers, along with some help from Miss Marvel and with Cap taking up the rear. These fighters are fighting to save a country that only exists in their mind. Minds warped across decades by a Nazi. He's why I exist. He's why I can't die. Just yet, Cap heroically says. Back with Tony, he's giving all he has to keep up with Red Skull, as he insults Tony about his failure to keep his family safe. While he's distracted with rage, Red Skull puts him down with a powerful blast from his suit. After he's done with Tony, he gives the call to take out all the Defenders' hidden bases, and he also gives orders to send the first wave of missiles towards Washington. He wants to raise the city in order to build a new one in his image. But Tony springs into action. He's headed straight for the missiles, and he relays the president's news to Cap. He's distraught. Hawkeye and Miss Marvel run to protect the vice president, while Cap and Thor try to hold Red Skull off. But he's too strong. But Cap won't give up. You fought a country before, haven't you, Captain? My beloved Germany. You were a leader of men then. But now you lead children huddled away in their ramshackle buildings across America. Buildings I'm currently tearing apart. Children I'm currently murdering. But he gets the call from his soldiers. They're all empty. Every team reports the same thing. Rosa, Steve's partner, relays the information to him, telling him she loves him and to come home safe. But he's beyond his limit. He's thinking this is it. But that's when out of nowhere the rest of the Defenders arrive on the scene for backup. And he gets a burst of adrenaline. He's not done yet. Meanwhile, Tony is taking out all the missiles he can. But that's when his son appears. Tony begs with him to stop this madness. But if he wants it stopped, then he tells him he should have stayed dead. Red Skull will kill millions, Iron Man pleads. But James bites back, saying he'll save billions. James thinks he's on the good side, saying, how could you let your own wife die? How could you let your own son become an orphan? But he never wanted this. Tony loves him. I loved your mother. I know you think what you're doing is right, but people's lives are all that matter. Your mother, me, my friends, we only ever tried to save people. To protect them. Give them the freedom to live their lives. The Red Skull only cares about power. About controlling people. I know you hate me, I do. But this isn't about us. I wasn't there for you. I'd give anything to change things. But I'm here now. I'm here to tell you that this is wrong. You can't control people. You can just... Shut up! James screams. Just shut up! I'm flattered, son. You didn't change my designs too much. Remote controlled, interlinked. I don't control people, but I'm damn good at controlling machines. Tony and James have the same colour writing, and I think it symbolises how they're both the same people, and that Tony is just further along on his journey than James. It goes all the way back to Tony's relationship with his father. And Tony was a weapons dealer at first, but then he discovered the two sides of the spectrum. At one point he was held hostage in a cave by people trying to steal his ideas and weapons. But on the other hand, he was saved by Yinsen, a man who removed shrapnel from his chest, replacing it with an electromagnet powered by a car battery. He discovered true humanity. He could take the evil route, or he could take Yinsen's route. And he chose to stand on Yinsen's side. Not to use his genius intellect for money and power. He decided he would be a hero, just like Yinsen. Now he must convince his son to see the side of good too. He knows it will be hard, as he has experienced it himself, but he will never stop believing in his son, because when all hope was lost and he wanted to die in that cave, someone believed in him. Back in the heat of the battle, Miss Marvel and Hawkeye have rescued the Vice President, while Cap and Thor are still taking on the Red Skull, head on, and failing. They regroup and ready another attack. While Tony is being manhandled by his son, he gets flung through the Washington Monument before crashing into the ground. His son screams, saying we could have done this with minimal damage, but now the skull is gonna drop a nuke on Washington. He pummels his dad further and further into the ground, asking him why. Tony tells Cap of the incoming warhead and Thor flies into action. Back in the Defenders mobile unit, Luke Cage is sick of watching others fight his battle. He started this, so he might as well get involved. He might be old, but he's still fucking bulletproof. This isn't some impetus plan. This is decades in the making, Skull says. I don't care if you plant this for a millennium, I'll stop you. Again and again. You can manipulate people into believing that H-Day was necessary. That Hero Day was some inevitable judgment on his friends. But we'll keep fighting. Because that's what we do. Cap heroically rebuttals. Oh, Captain. Ever since H-Day, America has never been the same. No. Did you ever wonder why? Was it because you heroes actually stood in the way of peace? Or was it because America finally had the ultimate weapon that they could drop into upstart countries at will? Typical American narcissists. It was never called H-Day because of you heroes. It was called H-Day because of the Hulk. The Incredible Hulk has been unleashed upon the world once more in a desperate attempt to regain control again from the Red Skull. I've grown numb over the decades to the atrocities my country has committed across the globe. Too many to count. And now, the Hulk. Accidentally created by the government, now their purposeful weapon against the world. The Red Skull's weapon. The most destructive being in all of human history. As the Skull and Steve fight, he rages in the background. Do you think your military hesitated when I presented them with a Hulk they could control? Skull screams. Steve knows he's right. He asks himself, Bruce, are you even still in there anymore? Are you trapped and screaming? Before he gets his answer, Thor smashes Hulk's face in. Steve shouts at Thor to keep him away from the civilians, but Skull hits back telling him If Hulk doesn't do it, the bombs he just dropped will. It's not looking good for America's symbol of hope. Back over with James and Tony. They're both reeling from their battle. Both Tony and James, physically and emotionally, are broken. Father and son, two faces on the same coin. James still blames his father for everything. James, I never meant to leave. Your mother and I loved you. We have a second chance, but it'll be nothing if we let Red Skull's nuke destroy everything and everyone. You don't want that, son. I know you don't. He's not listening. He believes he's still in the right. But in that moment, Tony's memories come flooding back. My God. The ring. I remember. The ring on James's finger glows as Tony shocks it with the last of his energy. Tony remembers his last conversations with his wife, the Wasp. They agreed on a plan, but what was it? James can feel some sort of energy emanating from his ring. Because I want to be close to him. That's the plan. He's already a genius. He'll figure it out, and he'll free me when it's safe. I have no doubt. And then when you and our boy are together again, you'll both save the world. I'm sorry, my love. No time to catch up. A bomb is falling. It's okay, dear. There's always a bomb falling. It's the Wasp. She's back. The plan worked and she's caught the bomb before it hit Washington. The others can't believe their eyes. She's back. The Skull gives them no time to reminisce and fires on her immediately. She shrinks back down, and her and Tony get the small reunion of a lifetime. Meanwhile, a war is being waged across the country between two behemoths of power. Two immortal beings. One being a god of thunder, and one is a being of pure destruction. As they split mountains in two, Thor tries to reason with him, but Hulk only knows one thing. Hulk destroy everything. But Thor won't let that happen, as the battle across the country continues, jumping from state to state, before eventually landing in a city, and Hulk finally has his opportunity to destroy. Hulk tries his best to reach Banner, and it works. Hulk, Thor, I've destroyed so much, so many lives. Kill me. Before Thor can respond, the green killing machine takes back control and sends him flying. Back in Washington, James can't believe his eyes. It's his mom. She's alive, but injured. But there's no time for a family reunion. They still need to join the others and stop Red Skull. Miss Marvel is hit, and the others begin to beat the enemy silly, but Luke steps in and tells them there's no need. The world is watching now. Skull informs Steve of the Hulk's destruction, as he's been keeping track of him as they fight. Your Aryan prince is no match for an unleashed Hulk, he screams, as he sends him crashing into the White House. Skull follows him, telling him he's no match for him, and that his country stands for nothing, as he snaps off the American flag. This insane symbol is so easily twisted, so thoroughly co-opted, that by the time I'm done, people will wave it as a siren call to fascism. He shouts as he plunges the flag into Captain America's stomach. They'll see my lies as truth. I control the media. I control your insipid laws. I let your puppet president's blood wash over me, because you don't need a president anymore, when you have a Führer. Steve writhes in pain, and then randomly cracks a smile. Smile, Skull. The world is watching. His whole speech has just been broadcast across the world, and now everyone knows of his plans. But it's not enough. They need to finish him once and for all, as Tony takes him out, before being taken out himself in return. Miss Marvel grabs him, as Hawkeye readies her bow. The Wasp lands on him, blasting away an opening for her son to blast him away. Hawkeye then fires her final shot. He gets sent flying back to Steve. Captain America started this, and now it's his turn to finish it. It's over. but Steve collapses from blood loss. And that's when Tony realises Skull had a failsafe switch. It's gonna blow. As Wasp tries to kickstart Steve's heart again, James grabs Skull's body and takes off. Tony screaming for his boy to stop. Tony flies after him, telling him to stop. But James feels like he has to make things right. But Tony catches up with him, telling him, it's okay. In the end, you came through. And it's not the end for you. You're just getting started as Iron Man. Tony takes the body and sends James back to Earth. In LA, the Hulk and Thor are still going at it. And Thor apologises to Bruce. He's had enough. He lunges at him with all his might, crashing into the water close by. Back in Washington, Janet is trying her best to keep Steve alive, but it's not looking good. I woke up to Washington burning. My son in danger. Captain America can't die. You need to live. Steve is conscious again. As James comes into land. Mom, I'm sorry, Dad, he... But she knows. This is what being a hero is all about. Sometimes when you win, you also lose. 2 weeks later, Steve and Janet are overlooking James. He's rebuilding the Avengers mansion all by himself. He hasn't said a word since that day. Thor stops by, telling him they have to let him go through his own warrior's journey of grief. And then, when he does, she'll get her son back. He's on his way back to Asgard, but he asks for forgiveness before he leaves. He needs forgiveness for leaving, and for Banner. But it was the only option, Steve says. There's solace in knowing he's at peace now. He tells them that if they need anything, to just call. He calls the Bifrost, and away he goes. Back in Asgard, he's greeted by a servant telling him of his duties, but he just wants to be left alone. Loki appears and Thor's really not in the mood, but he reveals that he told the young boy from Earth how to contact Thor. He brought the Avengers together for the first time. It was only fitting that he'd be there for the last outing. In the great halls of Valhalla, a figure sits alone, not celebrating with all the other great warriors. He seems sad. It's kind of ironic that the two scientists ended up in the afterlife together. Tony, I suspect Goldilocks pulled some sort of strings for a couple old warriors. I'd suggest we toast to a well-deserved life retirement, Dr. Banner. Where everyone keeps laughing at me when I ask for a non-alcoholic option. Back on there, James is frustrated he can't seem to fix things fast enough. Miss Marvel and Hawkeye offer some help. At first he turns it down, saying he can do it by himself. But Miss Marvel reassures him that he can, but it will be stronger, better even, if they do it together. And as the sun sets on the Avengers, it also sets on one of the best Marvel series of the last few years. Thank you all for coming on this journey with me, genuinely. Even if you only watched one episode, I appreciate you for all the support. The likes, the subscriptions, the comments, everything. This has been my most successful series yet. And if you'd like to stick around, I got big things coming in store for the next year. My name is Johnny, I'm from Dublin, Ireland. And I hope to see your face around here more often, as I try to hit 10k before the year's out. So like, share, comment, subscribe, everything. If you can try and help me get there, I'd appreciate that. Thank you again for all the love. Peace.